Sun Tzu's The Art of War teaches that victory is achieved through strategic planning, understanding both yourself and your enemy, and mastering the art of deception. But are you ready to apply these ancient tactics to conquer today's challenges? Introduction. Did you know that strategies used in war are also applicable to many scenarios in daily life? What's more, you can have them at your fingertips. The Art of War is an ancient Chinese military treatise that has been widely read and studied for centuries. Written by Sun Tzu, it provides strategies for success in battle and other aspects of life. Each of the 13 chapters focuses on a different aspect of warfare. These include attack strategies, planning considerations, the use of spies, and psychological tactics. One of the main themes of The Art of War is the importance of strategy and planning. Sun Tzu emphasizes the need for a clear and well-thought-out plan of attack, advising against relying on brute force alone. Gathering intelligence and understanding the enemy's strengths and weaknesses are also important. The Art of War is considered one of history's most influential works on strategy. Sun Tzu's approach can be used in many areas of life, including politics, sport, and business negotiations. It is essential reading for anyone needing insight into how to best approach conflicts of any size. Learn how to do so with intelligence and foresight instead of relying upon strength alone. About Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu was born in approximately 540 BC. We know relatively little about him, and some people even question whether he was one person or a group of notable men. The most common description of his life is that he was born Sun Wu and obtained the title Sun Tzu, Master Sun, after performing as a general. Even if Sun Tzu was not one person, whoever wrote this book was alive during a time of success in battle for these parts of ancient China. Chapter 1. Preparation and knowledge are essential. Studying war can mean the difference between survival or the death of a country. There are 5 fundamental factors associated with war: moral influence, weather, terrain, command, doctrine. These 5 factors combine to help you develop a pre-conflict plan of action. They are crucial for your military strategy. Moral influence. The first factor relates to whether the people below a leader are confident in their ruler. This confidence ultimately determines the people's willingness to support the stresses of war. Additionally, this willingness is directly associated with the likelihood of success in war. A good example of moral influence is George Washington in the American Revolutionary War. He inspired his troops and kept their spirits high, even in tough times like the winter at Valley Forge. Washington's dedication to the cause and his personal sacrifices created a strong bond with his soldiers. This connection helped them stay committed and win against the British. Weather and terrain. Leaders must consider how difficult or easy it will be for their troops to march over the terrain in the prevailing weather conditions. As a good leader, you have to make this estimation to understand what condition your troops will arrive in before engaging with the enemy. The harsh winter affected both sides in World War II's Battle of Stalingrad. The unprepared Germans suffered from frostbite, while the Soviets, accustomed to the cold, used snowstorms to launch surprise attacks. Command and doctrine. A leader's assessment of command relates to his qualities, specifically how qualified he is to order the troops and be confident they will accurately follow his orders. A leader must command by displaying essential virtues, such as wisdom, sincerity, humanity, courage, strictness, A leader's doctrine relates to organization, control, assignment of appropriate ranks, regulation of supply routes, provision of items used by the army. Hannibal Barca, in the Second Punic War, is a strong example of how a good command and strategy can lead to victory even against larger forces. If you can optimize these 5 factors, you are more likely to be successful in war than a significantly bigger army without these factors. Therefore, this pre-engagement planning is crucial. Master the art of gathering intelligence while obscuring your vulnerabilities. When the enemy is unaware of your actual condition, their chances of success diminish. Chapter 2. Act quickly in war, but don't be reckless. In battle, speed and decisiveness are key. Napoleon's fast strikes during his Italian campaign led to victories against larger forces, proving the advantage of acting quickly. However, success also requires solid preparation. Alexander the Great, for example, ensured his army had sufficient supplies, allowing him to maintain his strategy and win battles far from home. The most successful leaders understand and keep track of their common soldiers' strengths and state of mind. Generals must ensure the following 4 factors are accounted for before combat. Otherwise, failure is guaranteed. Hunger, thirst, attachment to accumulated loot, outrage at an injustice. Leaders also need to remember that human lives and money are at stake when waging war. Never be reckless in your actions. Recklessness will have a psychological impact on your army. It will leave your soldiers exhausted and your supplies dwindling. During war, make the most of what you have. Do not destroy supplies you can use. Do not burn food you can eat. And do not kill soldiers who can either give you information or join your ranks. Chapter 3. Attack by Strategy. Sun Tzu's famous principle. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Captures the essence of his strategic philosophy. This isn't just about gathering facts. It's about deep, ongoing analysis of your strengths, weaknesses, and the dynamic nature of your opponent. Knowing yourself means understanding not just your army's physical capabilities, but also its morale, leadership quality, and resilience under pressure. Knowing the enemy involves more than counting troops or identifying their weaknesses. It's about predicting their behavior, their psychological state, and how they will react under different pressures. This principle also extends to adaptability. Sun Tzu teaches that even if you have a strong, well-prepared army, if you fail to understand the unique conditions of the battlefield or the psychology of your opponent, your strength can be turned into a liability. Intelligence gathering, therefore, is not just about preparation. It's an ongoing process, a constant flow of information that informs every tactical decision before, during, and after battle. Modern applications in business and politics show that the most successful leaders don't rely on brute force or simple preparation. Instead, they constantly reassess their environment and adjust their strategies accordingly. This proactive, adaptive approach is the true meaning behind Sun Tzu's principle. Victory becomes more predictable when a leader has as much insight into the enemy as they have into their own forces. There are 5 conditions for that. Suppose the leader knows as much about the opposition's troops as he knows about himself and his troops. This knowledge will allow the leader to know when to advance and retreat. If the leader knows the correct use of small and large forces, if the leader knows how to forge ranks that are unified in purpose, if the leader knows how to be patient when the opposition might struggle to be patient. If the leader knows his authority should never interfere with his decisions, the leader should not allow their sense of control or dominance to cloud their or influence their decision-making process. Chapter 4. Be tactical. There's a clear difference between defense and offense, and what a general can control, his own troops, versus what is beyond his control, the enemy. Leaders must keep their team's egos in check, reminding them that an easy win isn't a test of skill. Victory often comes from hidden factors before the battle even begins. For example, Union General Ulysses S. Grant's careful planning before the Battle of Vicksburg helped secure the city before major fighting started. Wise leaders take nothing for granted and prepare for all opportunities. Sun Tzu introduces Taoism as an indicator of how to forge one's forces into a unit capable of acting like an inevitable force of nature. He also presents us 5 elements of war: measurement of space, estimation of quantities, calculations, comparisons, chances of victory. Chapter 5. Organize your troops into a hierarchy of units. As a leader, aim to create well-organized units out of your troops. If done correctly, you can skillfully manage your individual troops into a single force. This unity can be the factor that helps you overcome a more loosely managed opponent. Adopt a pyramid of command. Build your team from the base, which should include individual soldiers. Move up each level, creating larger and larger units. For example, pair, trio, squad, section, platoon, company, battalion, regiment, group, brigade, army. At each level, incorporate a commander to obey his superiors and control his inferiors. If well organized in this way, your troops will still understand orders even when spread out and unable to communicate. In modern military tactics, units are trained to follow a chain of command so that if communication lines are cut, everyone still knows what to do. The components of an army are finite, but the possible combinations are limitless. You can apply this knowledge to many areas of life. For example, you can create limitless arrangements from just 5 musical notes or 5 primary colors. A skilled and wise general can gain an advantage by enticing the enemy into a risky attack. In this way, a leader controls their opponent's movements instead of being controlled. For example, during the Battle of Austerlitz, Napoleon pretended his army was weak to lure his enemies into a trap, eventually leading to a decisive victory. Chapter 6. Trick your enemy into a weak position. Deception isn't just about pretending to be strong or weak. It's about long-term manipulation and careful psychological control. A leader should understand the enemy's state of mind, motivations, and vulnerabilities, and create situations where the enemy is led into making errors. For instance, by feigning weakness, you create overconfidence in the opponent, but the trick lies in timing and subtlety. Overplaying deception can lead to predictable actions, so the true art lies in concealing your real intentions over extended periods. A historical example is the D-Day deception campaign, where the Allies systematically misled the Germans, not just with direct, false information, but through an entire operation of signals, fake armies, and misleading troop movements, culminating in the successful Normandy invasion. Chapter 7. Successful Maneuvering. Sometimes calls for desperate measures. Maneuvering is the strategy of commanding a physical army. If you force your army to march for 30 miles, you'll lose men for all sorts of reasons. There's a balance between pushing them to gain an advantage and pushing them too far. A complicated tactic is to pretend you are on an aimless course, when in reality, you are on a direct and focused path. This approach confuses the enemy and teaches your lower-ranked army members how to obey complex and changing commands. Although potentially highly effective, only experienced leaders should use this tactic. Sun Tzu was once challenged to train an army of concubines. He would give an order, but they would laugh and carry on. To create order, he executed 2 of the king's favorite concubines. Now everyone listened and maneuvered precisely as directed. This story shows that getting your army to maneuver can be one of the most challenging tasks for a leader. Hence, some difficult decisions might have to be made to encourage maneuvering. Use this guidance on maneuvering. Firstly, encourage your army to only split up when necessary. It is better to ensure all troops arrive at the battlefield simultaneously and in good condition. You also want to arrive before the opposing army. This will put you in an advantageous position. In daily life, timing and coordination are key to success. In sports, a well-positioned soccer team can take control of the game and score more effectively. Similarly, a student who prepares ahead for exams is more likely to succeed than one who crams at the last minute. Chapter 8. Vary your tactics. According to the circumstances. Circumstances sometimes call for different tactics and choices. There are cities you should not attack. There are roads you should not take. During your preparation, you'll see some choices will be catastrophic. These tactics all come from the general, and there are 5 major ways that a general can fail when deciding which approach to take. Being reckless and impatient leads to destruction. Cowardice and fear lead to eventual capture. A hasty temper means one can be baited and provoked. A high standard of honor makes you susceptible to shame. Caring too much about the troops might make a general second-guess his decisions and worry about them instead of focusing on victory alone. Whenever an army is defeated or a leader is slain, one of these 5 faults is to blame. Use a variety of tactics to keep the enemy off balance and prevent them from anticipating your next move. Avoid using the same tactics repeatedly. This can lead to predictability and make it easier for the enemy to anticipate and counter your moves. It is important to be flexible and adapt your tactics in response to changing conditions. Chapter 9. Consider weather and terrain and the morale of your troops. Careful planning and discipline are essential to the success of a military campaign. This will ensure an army is well prepared and can carry out its campaign effectively, regardless of its conditions or challenges. Success depends on disciplined marches and careful troop arrangement when facing the enemy. Consider weather, terrain, and environmental factors like rivers, mountains, or marshes. Use bad conditions to your advantage, as the Yellow Emperor did when conquering 4 sovereigns. Key tactics. Plan marches carefully based on terrain and weather. Use environmental features, like rivers or bad weather, to trap the enemy. Maintain morale and unity with rewards and discipline. Inspire troops and address any signs of dissent to keep them motivated and cooperative. Chapter 10. Use terrain strategically. Understanding the terrain is critical in any conflict, whether it's accessible plains for fast movements, securing high ground for defense, or using enclosed spaces for ambushes. Each type of terrain offers its own strategic advantages. Leaders must assess the battlefield and make decisions accordingly, as demonstrated by Napoleon's use of accessible terrain at Waterloo or the Union's defense of high ground at Gettysburg. The key is to adapt your tactics based on the environment. leaders must understand how different types of terrain impact their strategy. Accessible terrain, easy to move through, allowing quick troop movements, like Napoleon's army at Waterloo. High ground provides a defensive advantage. Secure it early, or if the enemy holds it, force them to leave, as the Union did at Gettysburg. Entangling ground, easy to advance but difficult to retreat from. Hannibal exploited this by attacking vulnerable enemies after crossing the Alps. Deadlock terrain offers no clear advantage to either side. Retreat and make the enemy engage first. Enclosed terrain. Narrow areas perfect for ambushes, like the Greeks trapping the Persians at Thermopylae. Chapter 11. There are 9 types of battleground. There are 9 types of ground on which a battle may take place, ranging from the easiest to the most desperate, with tactics on how to handle each. Never engage the enemy on these 3 types of land, as you will gain little by doing so. Dispersive ground. Within one's own territory. Frontier ground, making a shallow penetration into enemy land. Key ground, neutral or mutually advantageous. If a leader can keep his formations together, it can be advantageous to fight on. Communicating ground expanded and leveled to accommodate fortifications. As a leader, you can gain allies or resources if you engage on. Focal ground, when you are surrounded by 3 other states. However, there is a risk that allies may not be dependable. Serious ground involves deep movement into the enemy territory, so is a significant opportunity to obtain prisoners and resources. However, it is also difficult to retreat, hence you need to ensure a continuous flow of provisions. Avoid these ground types. Bondi, difficult ground. These terrains include mountains, cliffs, swamps, and fast-flowing rivers. Encircled ground. This type of ground involves being pressed by opposing forces and rough terrain. Death ground. The army will only survive by fighting out of desperation. This ground is the most severe test of an army's internal discipline and order. Chapter 12. Fire is an effective weapon. One of the most effective weapons is fire. Here are 5 ways you can use fire during war. Burning enemy soldiers, destroying static supplies, destroying their supplies still in transit, destroying their weapons and ammo, destroying lines of communication and causing chaos. These methods depend on weather conditions, humidity, and the direction and strength of winds. The equipment for this kind of attack should be planned and arranged well ahead of time, so adjustments can be made in case of changing conditions. When using fire, act swiftly, for its destructive power peaks quickly. In life, the use of swift and decisive actions can mirror the use of fire, spreading confusion among your rivals. During Napoleon's invasion of Russia, the Russian army retreated and burned Moscow, destroying key supplies. This left Napoleon's troops without resources, forcing them to retreat in the harsh winter, leading to one of his greatest defeats. Chapter 13. Spies and gathering intelligence are essential for success in war. In the art of war, Sun Tzu's approach to espionage is holistic and deeply integrated into the planning process. He outlines 5 types of agents, but what's crucial is how these agents work together to form a complete intelligence network. This system doesn't just provide information, it shapes the overall strategy. A general who uses intelligence well can see battles long before they happen, adjust tactics in real time, and prevent engagement unless victory is assured. For Sun Tzu, the strategic use of spies is the key to winning without fighting at all, a true embodiment of his principle that the greatest victory is that which requires no battle. Use 5 types of agents in war. Native agents, locals from the enemy's country who can be bribed or persuaded to provide information. Inside agents, individuals within the enemy's army, vulnerable to emotional or logical appeals. Double agents, enemy spies who are bribed to pass false information back to their side. Expendable agents, used to deceive the enemy with false information, knowing they might be caught and killed. Living agents, return with vital intelligence that helps the general plan and win. Gathering intelligence is a key to success in business, sports, and politics as well. For example, Tesla uses market research and local insights to stay ahead, while sports teams rely on scouts to study opponents' strategies. In politics, consultants who switch sides provide valuable information. In each field, the strategic use of intelligence gives a significant advantage without direct conflict. Finally, Sun Tzu's The Art of War, written over 2,500 years ago, remains a timeless classic on strategy and warfare. Its principles, initially designed for military leaders, have transcended warfare and are now widely applied in business, politics, sports, and daily life. The core message of the book is that true success stems from careful planning, adaptability, and understanding both your strengths and the weaknesses of your opponent. The wisdom in the art of war lies in its practicality and focus on foresight. Sun Tzu teaches that the best victories are achieved without fighting, by outsmarting and outmaneuvering the enemy before conflict even begins. By mastering strategy and gathering intelligence, one can win without unnecessary losses.